Hello everyone, tonight we dive into one of the most chilling and controversial mysteries of modern history, a story that blurs the line between science, conspiracy, and the impossible. It is called the Philadelphia Experiment, a tale of a U.S. Navy warship that supposedly vanished from sight during World War II, an experiment meant to turn science fiction into reality. Some say it was a secret test of invisibility. Others believe it was time travel, teleportation, or something even darker. Official records deny it ever happened, but eyewitnesses and strange accounts suggest otherwise. Tonight, we explore the story of the Philadelphia Experiment, a warship that may have disappeared into another dimension. The story begins in 1943, in the midst of World War II. The United States Navy was racing to outmatch German U-boats that were devastating Allied shipping across the Atlantic. Radar technology was advancing quickly, and the military desperately wanted an advantage. According to the legend, the Navy launched a top-secret experiment at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard to render a destroyer escort, the USS Eldridge, invisible to enemy radar, and possibly to the naked eye itself. Accounts of the experiment vary, but they all agree on one chilling moment. On the day of the test, the USS Eldridge was surrounded by a strange green-blue haze, then abruptly vanished from sight. Some witnesses claimed it reappeared minutes later, while others said it was gone for hours. Most shockingly, some reported that the ship reappeared not in Philadelphia, but hundreds of miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, before returning once again to its original position. This was not just invisibility. It was teleportation. The story spread through whispers and rumors, fueled by letters, testimonies, and accounts from sailors. One of the most infamous claims came from a man named Carl M. Allen, also known as Carlos Allende. In the 1950s, Allen wrote letters to researchers and even annotated books on UFO, describing in vivid detail what he said had happened to the USS Eldridge. According to him, the experiment was a disaster. Not only did the ship disappear, but the effects on the crew were horrifying. Sailors were said to have been physically fused into the steel of the ship, their bodies trapped in bulkheads or deck plates, as though the metal and flesh had merged during the teleportation. Others went mad, screaming about voices and visions. Some were said to vanish completely, never to return. There were even reports that surviving crew members experienced bizarre aftereffects, such as becoming invisible at random moments, or suddenly bursting into flames. These disturbing accounts turned what could have been a simple tale of radar invisibility into a legend of unnatural horrors. But was there any science behind this? Proponents of the Philadelphia experiment point to theoretical ideas being explored at the time. Albert Einstein had proposed his unified field theory, an attempt to merge electromagnetism and gravity into a single framework. Though unfinished, some conspiracy theorists believe military scientists tried to apply aspects of it to bend light and radar waves around a ship, effectively cloaking it. Other theories suggest that massive electromagnetic generators were placed on the Eldridge to distort space-time itself, creating a kind of temporary wormhole that sent the ship through space, or even time. Of course, the U.S. Navy has always denied the experiment took place. Official records state that the USS Eldridge was never in Philadelphia at the time of the supposed test, and logs show it was elsewhere on routine missions. They dismiss the Philadelphia experiment as a hoax, fueled by rumors and fabrications. Yet these denials have only deepened suspicions. Many argue that if such an experiment truly occurred, it would have been covered up to avoid public panic and to hide sensitive wartime technology. Eyewitnesses add fuel to the fire. Some claim they saw the Eldridge disappear with their own eyes from the docks. Others said sailors who were supposedly on the ship later confessed strange experiences but were silenced or ridiculed. Even in Norfolk, longshoremen reported that a warship appeared out of nowhere in 1943 before vanishing again. Could they all have been mistaken, or were they witnessing the impossible? The legend of the Philadelphia experiment also intersects with the rise of UFO culture and government secrecy in the 20th century. As UFO sightings increased after the war, stories of hidden technology, time travel, and alien involvement began to blend together. Some theorists suggest the experiment may not have been purely human science at all, that perhaps extraterrestrial knowledge was involved, given to or recovered by the military. If true, the USS Eldridge was not just a test of radar invisibility, but a glimpse into technology far beyond human comprehension. Skeptics, of course, argue that the story falls apart under scrutiny. The main source, Carl Allen, is widely considered unreliable. His letters were filled with contradictions and exaggerations, and no other credible witnesses have ever confirmed his most extreme claims. Historians point out that much of the story resembles science fiction tales of the time, particularly works about teleportation and invisibility experiments. They argue that the Philadelphia experiment is more folklore than fact, a Cold War-era urban legend born out of paranoia and imagination. Still, even skeptics struggle to explain why the story has endured so powerfully. Why do so many people, even decades later, insist the experiment happened? Why have elements of it appeared in declassified documents, conspiracy books, and even whispered accounts from former military personnel? Perhaps it is because the Philadelphia experiment touches on some of our deepest fears: the fear of governments conducting secret experiments, the fear of technology running out of control, and the fear that we may tamper with forces we do not fully understand. The Philadelphia experiment did not end with the supposed disappearance and reappearance of the USS Eldridge in 1943. In fact, some would argue that the real story began afterward, when rumors spread, witnesses spoke out, and researchers tried to piece together what really happened. Whether true or not, the tale grew into one of the most infamous legends of secret military experiments in the 20th century. After the war, whispers of the experiment surfaced in conspiracy circles, but it was not until the 1950s that the story exploded. Carl Allen, under the name Carlos Allende, sent letters to author and researcher Morris K. Jessup, who was studying UFO at the time. Allen claimed he had witnessed the Eldridge vanish and described in chilling detail the horrific fate of its crew. His letters contained rambling explanations of advanced physics, references to Einstein's unified field theory, and descriptions of sailors becoming trapped in solid metal. Jessup was fascinated but also disturbed. He found Allen's letters bizarre and difficult to verify, yet they contained enough technical sounding language to raise questions. Things took a darker turn when Jessup received a copy of his own UFO book in the mail, heavily annotated in 3 different handwritings, supposedly belonging to extraterrestrials. The U.S. Navy's Office of Naval Research took an interest in this annotated book, known today as the Vero edition. The fact that the Navy reprinted and studied it gave credibility to Allen's claims in the eyes of many. Why would the Navy take interest in such ramblings unless there was some truth hidden inside? Jessup himself became increasingly troubled. He was drawn deeper into the Philadelphia experiment story, but the strain took its toll. In 1959, he was found dead in his car in what was officially ruled a suicide. To believers, however, his death was suspicious. Had he uncovered too much? Had he been silenced? The tragedy only added to the aura of mystery. Meanwhile, the USS Eldridge itself became a symbol of secrecy. Official Navy logs state that the ship was never in Philadelphia during 1943 and was instead operating in the Bahamas and elsewhere. The Navy insists that no such experiment ever took place, but to those who believe in the legend, this is simply part of the cover-up. They argue that the Navy would never admit to such a catastrophic failure, especially if it involved technology capable of altering space and time. Theories about what really happened continue to multiply. Some claim the experiment was a success, but far more powerful than intended, tearing open a hole in spacetime. This, they argue, explains reports that the ship appeared in Norfolk, Virginia, over 200 miles away, before reappearing in Philadelphia. Others suggest the ship may have traveled not just through space, but through time, disappearing for hours or even days. These theories connect the Philadelphia experiment to later projects such as the Montauk Project, an alleged series of secret time travel experiments conducted by the U.S. government decades later. The connection between the two stories is particularly intriguing. According to Montauk Project lore, scientists built upon the technology tested during the Philadelphia experiment, eventually developing time portals and mind control techniques. If true, this would mean the Eldridge's disappearance was only the beginning of a much larger, hidden scientific program, one that continues to this day. There are also theories that tie the Philadelphia experiment to UFO. Some believe the experiment was made possible with alien technology, either recovered from crashed UFO or given to humans through secret contacts. In this view, the experiment was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger effort to integrate extraterrestrial knowledge into military research. The strange green, blue glow reported during the experiment is often compared to the luminous effects seen in UFO encounters, further linking the two phenomena. But not all theories involve aliens or time travel. Some researchers propose that the experiment was simply an attempt at magnetic field manipulation to make ships less detectable to torpedoes and mines. Such technology, called degaussing, was indeed tested and used by the Navy during World War II. However, degaussing could not make a ship invisible or teleport it. The leap from a real military technique to the extraordinary claims of the Philadelphia experiment may have come from confusion, exaggeration, and conspiracy theorists filling in the gaps. Despite these rational explanations, the horrifying tales of the crew continue to haunt the legend. Stories of sailors fused into the bulkheads are especially disturbing. They suggest that the ship and its men partially dematerialized, only to rematerialize imperfectly, blending human bodies with solid steel. These accounts read like science fiction horror, yet they are repeated often enough to remain central to the myth. Some versions of the story even claim that sailors continue to suffer bizarre effects for years afterward, occasionally vanishing into thin air in front of terrified witnesses. As the decades passed, the Philadelphia experiment became embedded in popular culture. It has inspired books, documentaries, and even a Hollywood film in 1984, simply titled The Philadelphia Experiment. The movie dramatized the story, showing the ship vanishing and traveling forward in time, cementing the tale in the public imagination. The film's popularity also introduced the legend to new generations, keeping the mystery alive long after the supposed event. Even today, the story refuses to die. On internet forums, in conspiracy circles, and among UFO researchers, the Philadelphia experiment is still debated. Some argue that it is the smoking gun that proves governments are hiding advanced technologies, while others see it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of tampering with forces we do not understand. The enduring power of the story lies in its ambiguity. There is no definitive proof, no hard evidence, and yet there are enough strange coincidences, suspicious deaths, and unanswered questions to keep the legend alive. It is the perfect mystery, official denial, eyewitness testimony, scientific speculation, and horrifying consequences, all woven together into a tale too compelling to ignore. So where does that leave us? If the Philadelphia experiment really happened, it would mean that in 1943, humanity took its first step into a realm of science that even today we barely comprehend. It would mean the U.S. Navy accidentally unlocked secrets of space, time, and dimensions far beyond our grasp. It would mean that somewhere in the classified archives of the military lies the truth about what was done and what was unleashed. If, on the other hand, the story is nothing more than myth, it remains a powerful myth. It reflects our fears of unchecked government experiments, of science that outpaces morality, and of hidden truths buried beneath official denials. Whether fact or fiction, the Philadelphia experiment has become more than a story of a ship and its crew. It has become a symbol of humanity's dangerous curiosity and the shadows of secrecy that follow it. As we close the story of the Philadelphia experiment, one chilling thought remains. If the USS Eldridge truly vanished in 1943, even for just a moment, then the boundaries of reality may not be as firm as we believe. Perhaps we are closer to other dimensions than we imagine. Perhaps time and space are more fragile than we think. And perhaps, just perhaps, the experiment never ended. It simply went deeper underground, waiting for the next moment when science dares once again to push beyond the limits of the possible.